Good evening and welcome to the March 17th, 2021 meeting of the Traffic and Transportation Advisory Commission. Please join me in Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. And we have a flag that's going up there, right? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, and thank you, staff, for getting the flag up there for us. The very first thing we're going to do tonight is ask Mrs. Marcelino, Ms. Marcelino, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Ferrier,
Here.
Vice Chair Email,
Here.
Chair Lemon.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you. And our first order of business is to recognize our two outgoing commissioners, Tom Gregory and Michael Reeder. And do I turn this over to staff first or to commissioners with their comments? Jim, I think you're muted.
Not muted, but the volume maybe is not cooperating with us.
All right, so how about if we do this? How about if before we do any presentations, we see if any of our existing commissioners have any comments with the departure of Tom and Mike. Is Michael Reeder here? I can't see him on the list. Okay, then I will ask for Commissioner Ferris or Vice Chair Email if you have any outgoing comments for our two people that are leaving tonight.
Actually, I have just a very quick comment. I got the opportunity. I've known Tom for some time, and we got the opportunity to be able to overlap for one meeting for this. But it was great to work with you. But hopefully we can stay in touch, and it's always a pleasure. And to Michael Reeder, obviously the opportunity to work with him in the last meeting was great. So wish you the best, and please let me know if there's anything I can do to be of assistance at any time. Thanks.
Thank you, Commissioner Ferris. Vice Chair Email, any comments?
Just want to thank Mr. Reeder and Mr. Gregory for showing me the ropes when I joined the commission. It's been a pleasure serving with both of you, and I wish you both well.
And of course, I want to send thanks to Commissioner Reeder, and a special thanks for him bringing our flashing yellow lights to our attention. But I want to say a few words about Tom. I got to know him pretty well over the years. Tom was the first commissioner that really, outside of staff, that had to teach me a whole bunch of things. But I know we went on a little jaunt to learn about the proper use of stop signs. Every time I come up to a stop sign, I think of, or I should say, every time I think there should be a stop sign, I think of Tom. He was very patient to teach me. We stopped and had lunch, and he wouldn't let us pay for lunch, and he very humorously tried to teach me the ropes way back when. And Tom, this is one of those times where thank you just doesn't seem to be enough. But thank you very much for your service to the city, and thank you for your understanding and your tutelage of me. And with that, I know we are going to have a presentation. So who should I turn things over to? I'm assuming it'll be either Jim Mashinko or Ms. Marcelino.
Yeah, we're seeing if the audio has been resuscitated for Jim Mashinko. It does not appear as such. So we'll see if we can do that as an alternative. Esther, do you have that information?
Well, I have a little bit of it if you want me to start.
Are we talking about the certificate?
The certificate and I believe the certificate also includes the amount of time
Let me-
and your nameplate will get sent to you. Is that correct?
Yeah.
So we have the certificates of recognition for both outgoing commissioners, Tom Gregory and Mike Reeder, and we'll be mailing those to them. Julie, can you please make me co-host? Let me share the certificate of recognition for for Commissioner Gregory.
And while she's getting that, I can tell you that it's somewhere around 15 or more years in the aggregate that Tom has served. And if I'm not mistaken, Tom, are you not the longest serving Traffic and Transportation Commission member ever?
I don't know.
I think there was Moses, and then there was Tom.
Whoa, am I so? Okay. I think car wheels were square when I started.
Well, look at the improvements you impacted here.
That's right. Cars didn't go that fast, so. It's been a long time. I started in 2003, actually. So it's been a long time.
That is
And,
a very long time.
if I
Wow.
get a chance to say something, I just want to share my appreciation with staff. They always came prepared, made us look good, corrected our mistakes, told us when we weren't paying attention to something that they had already covered. There's a lot of tools that they've taught us over the years that we can use and that we can't use. And they've made us all better. So
No doubt.
I'd say just read your material, drive the areas that have the biggest concerns, listen to public comment, and never expect it to end the way you think it will, because it'll surprise you, actually. And I can think of numerous instances where I thought it was a slam dunk one way and it didn't turn out to be that way. So anyways, I wish the new commissioners the best of luck, and that the new challenges on the boulevard get resolved, and we all enjoy the good work that's currently being done and will be done in the future. So I appreciate all of you, and hopefully maybe I will see you in the future. All right.
Thank you, Tom. Now, I was going to read your certificate, but it was only on the screen for a moment.
That's
now-
all right.
And now
there
everybody's
you go.
chatting. Oh, here we go.
There you
So
go.
it says, certificate of recognition presented to Tom Gregory on behalf of the city of Thousand Oaks. We want to thank you for your 5+, absolutely, definitely 5+ years in your most recent appointment of remarkable service to our community on the Thousand Oaks Traffic and Transportation Advisory Commission. You generously volunteered your time to serve the city of Thousand Oaks as traffic commissioner and have proven to be an invaluable resource in the city's decision-making process. And that is absolutely true. And so thank you very much, Tom. And it's signed by our mayor, Claudia Bill de la Pena. And she was way ahead of us. She signed it on March 9th of this past year.
All right. Well, thank you very much. I enjoyed working with all of you.
Thank you very much. And we're going to move ahead. And of course, Tom, you're here. You're welcome to stay with us or just smack us around if we.
Oh, I think I'll sign out.
Thank you very much. I hope to see you soon.
I didn't read the packet this week.
And this is the only week he didn't read it because he was
That's
always very prepared.
All right. Thank you
very
all.
much, Tom. I appreciate it.
All right. Take care.
And now we'll get to some very necessary housekeeping. The oath of office is going to be given by our city clerk's department. And Christy, I am going to apologize in advance if I don't say your name properly, but from our city clerk's department, Christy Glauke.
That's very good. Yes.
All right, and
I'll
she is
take it.
going to, and she's going to administer the oath of office to our two newest commissioners, Victor Hayek and Andrew Pletcher. The
I
floor is yours,
am.
Christy.
Hi, everybody. I'm Christy Globke. I'm an assistant analyst in the city clerk department, and I have the honor of administering your oath of office. Before we get to the oath, I just want to make sure you guys received an email from me today that included a PDF of the oath that we will need you to sign. We actually need to keep the signature copies of the oaths in our office. And then there's also a manual for you guys, a handbook that has pretty much all the information you need just about the rules and regulations of being on a city commission, and things like information about conflict of interest and things like that, the Brown Act, which I think Felicia's going to tell you about in a little while. And normally when I do this, I have to explain what the conflict of interest filings are, Form 700 with the FPPC, but you both already filed them. So thank you both very much. And thank you to all the other commissioners, because you guys are all set. Yay. Very pleased. Thank you. Thank you all for doing that. So now I'm going to administer the oath. I will need you guys to unmute yourselves when we do this so we can hear you accept the oath. Thank you. And if you would please raise your right hand. At the end of the oath, you can just say, I do. Do you, Victor Hayek and Andrew Pletcher, solemnly swear that you will support and defend the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that you will bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California, that you take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion, and that you will well and faithfully discharge the duties upon which you are about to enter?
I do.
I do.
Wonderful. Well, thank you both very much. Congratulations on your appointments to the Traffic Commission, and best of luck to you. Please let me know if you have any questions or if you need anything. You now have my email and my phone number, and I'm available anytime.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Christy.
You're welcome. And thank you, everyone. Have a good meeting.
Thank you, and welcome Commissioner Hayek and Pletcher. And now Felicia, I believe the exciting presentation on the Brown Act brings you to the floor.
Thank you so much. Hi, everybody. My name is Felicia Liberman. I'm one of the assistant city attorneys here at the city. You have your assistant city attorney who helps you with your meetings here. That's Dave. So if questions regarding the Brown Act come up in the days and weeks that follow, you have a resource right at your fingertips with Dave, but you are also more than welcome to contact me directly as well. So I'm going to share my screen because I have a brief PowerPoint. And let me know if you can see that.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So here we go. So I'm sure many of you have had some interaction with the Brown Act or some training on it before. I'm assuming some of you longer standing members of this committee, but I also know that Drew and Victor probably have had plenty of exposure to the Brown Act, but regardless, it's always good to have a refresher on it since it applies to this commission in this or committee. Is it a commission or committee? It's a commission.
Commission.
So what is the Brown Act? And what it is the state of California's open meeting law, or their sunshine law. The Brown Act, you might not know, was enacted in 1953, and it was enacted in response to growing concerns about local government officials' practice at the time of holding secret meetings that were not in compliance with advanced public notice requirements. So it does apply to all local agency legislative body meetings. That includes their subcommittees that they create. Interestingly, a little known fact, the state legislature exempted themselves from the requirements of the Brown Act. So they can have secret meetings and closed door meetings, but you may not. So in a nutshell, what the law requires is that all aspects of your decision-making process be conducted in public. And right in the statute's declaration and where it comes into the legislative intent, it says that the intent in enacting the law was, quote, "The people of the state do not yield their sovereignty to the agencies which serve them. The people, in delegating authority, do not give their public servants the right to decide what is good for the people to know and what is not good for them to know. The people insist on remaining informed so that they may retain control over the instruments they have created." So everything you do, whether it's discussing a topic before you as a body, debating that topic, obtaining information regarding that topic, all has to be conducted in public. What it does is specifically prohibit the majority of you by using any types of series of communications from creating a meeting of the minds about how you're going to vote or decide an issue. So that could be through a direct communication, meaning you all call each other up on the phone and come to a decision outside of the publicly noticed meeting. Use personal intermediaries to do your dirty work. You know, tell Rick to tell Drew that this is the way we should go. Or you use smartphones or technological devices in which to do it. I will say the advent of the smartphone can become an unwitting enemy for all of you when trying to adhere to the Brown Act, because it is so easy to commit a violation without realizing you did it. And in the area of emails, that whole reply all button can get you in a host of problems. So these communications can also include teleconference locations, and the Brown Act does allow for teleconferences to happen. And there's a whole host of rules with respect to that, if that does, but those locations are also subject to being open to the public. So it applies to, like I said before, the city council, obviously, but it also applies to standing committees with continuing subject matter jurisdiction, such as yours, or meetings fixed by resolution or other formal action of the council. So standing committees include your committee, the Planning Commission, Youth Council, Council on Aging. It applies to standing committees, even if those committees make up of less than a quorum. The only exception to it are ad hoc advisory committees, because they are formed for a short duration to discuss a specific task. And once that task or topic is completed, they're dissolved. So for ad hoc advisory committees, as long as they're comprised of solely less than a quorum, the Brown Act would not apply. So this is the definition of a meeting right out of the Brown Act. It's just a congregation of a majority of you at the same time and place to start talking about the subject matter jurisdiction of your committee. And you have formed a meeting if you do that. There are exceptions to a meeting, and nothing prohibits you from having individual contacts with members of the public to have them express their viewpoints on a particular topic. You're allowed to attend conferences. You're allowed to attend other meetings or workshops put on by the local agency or another legislative body. You can go to open and notice meetings of another standing committee. But as a group, you can't discuss amongst yourselves while you're there your committee's business. Otherwise, you would be violating the Brown Act. So here are the common pitfalls. And I'll go through each of them briefly. So a collective briefing is not permitted, and these occur when a majority of the legislative body meets together with staff in advance of a meeting for a briefing on the issue. So that's the same as if you've just had a secret meeting because you're acquiring information about a topic, without the public participation component. A serial meeting, and this is where you can get in trouble with your phone or on your own, are meetings that deprive the public of an opportunity without meaningful observation and participation. So if you can envision these like a daisy chain, if you can envision the flower, member A has an idea about something, conveys that idea to member B then conveys that idea to member C, and so on and so forth until there is a majority of you, a quorum. Now, member A and member D may never have spoken to each other about the topic, but you've all developed a meeting of the minds on the issue in violation of the Brown Act by having that occur in that order. The hub and spoke is if you can envision a wheel, and someone at the middle is acting as that intermediary to explain or divulge or discuss someone on the committee's opinion or viewpoint on a particular topic. And that could be a staff member being that hub. It could be anybody, really. And that's also prohibited. Retreats and workshops apply if the purpose of the retreat is like a study session for your group, focuses on some sort of long range planning or some sort of ongoing issue that you all need to resolve, then it would apply. If it's completely unrelated to the Traffic Commission, then there's no violation of the Brown Act as long as you're not discussing Traffic Commission business. Informal gatherings is the same thing as a non-related retreat or workshop. People are allowed to gather. You're allowed to have dinner if you all become friends and you want to go out, and when we're allowed. You're all allowed to do that, but the devil's in the details, right? What generally happens when people meet up, they inevitably devolve into shop talk, and then you could find yourself in a Brown Act violation without intending to. So nothing prohibits you from doing it. Just be cognizant of the fact that you shouldn't discuss your common denominator, which is the commission you're sitting on. So what makes a meeting open and public? Well, first, you have to have proper public notice, meaning the public has to be told it's going to happen. Second, you need an agenda, which lets the public know what you're going to discuss, because then they can decide whether or not the third component happens, which is their attendance and participation. So that needs to happen in order for it to be an open and public meeting. The first two, we can control. The last one, we cannot. Proper public notice requires that agendas be posted 72 hours in advance of the meeting and mailed to anybody who has made that request in writing in advance. We have to post agendas on our agency's website homepage. We can't bury it. It has to be easily accessible to the public who are looking for it, and it must be downloadable. If teleconferencing is allowed, then agendas have to be posted at the teleconference location. I had someone on Council on Aging ask me if they could teleconference because they were recovering from a procedure in the hospital, and they wanted to know if they could participate from their hospital room. And that would fall under a teleconference location. And the answer is yes, they could, but then their hospital room would become open to the public and members of the public who wanted to participate in the meeting. And I asked that particular member if that was something they were comfortable with. And when they determined, no, they were not, that kind of went by the wayside. So members of the public are allowed to be in the teleconference location. So the basic rule about agendas is this, and this is really the one rule, if you can walk away from here, that you stick in your mind and never forget. You can't talk about it unless it's on the agenda. So you might have wonderful things you want to bring up, valid, important things you want this particular committee to discuss. But if it's not on the agenda, you can't talk about it. There are exceptions to that rule. However, most of the time, those exceptions aren't going to apply to your particular commission. But if you start talking about something that was not agendized, and not posted, then you've deprived the public of their opportunity to participate because they don't know that that's going to be brought up. So your agenda does not need to be a long-winded document that needs, 4 people to carry it because it's so big and thick and heavy. What it does need to say is where you're going to meet, when you're going to meet, and a brief general description of what you're going to discuss. And the public have rights. You cannot require members of the public to register their name or provide information or answer questionnaires or do any of that just to attend your meeting. You don't get to engage in secret ballots. You get paid the big bucks so that every member of the public knows exactly how you voted on any particular issue. So secret ballots are not allowed, even if it's just for a straw vote before the real vote. You cannot do it through a secret ballot. The public has the right to know if you've abstained from voting on a particular issue. They also have the right to see what the agendas consist of. They have the right to see all the staff reports and any attachments to it, all in advance that are, if they request it, but as long as it's distributed to you as a body, they have the right to see it. And if you have ever looked at a city council agenda online, you can click on all the staff reports that go with those particular items so that people can see that and read what you have received. They also have the right to address the legislative body or the committee commission directly as well. They also get to record the proceedings, even if those proceedings are already being recorded and televised. When I was working as an assistant city attorney in the city of Simi Valley, there was a controversial housing development. And this group called the Runkle Rangers were opposed to development in this particular area called Runkle Canyon because of Rocketdyne and issues surrounding that area. And they came in early and set up cameras. They set up microphones on the dais where the Planning Commission sat, and they recorded the meeting. And they have every right to do that as long as they don't interrupt your ability to do the business of your committee. They also, and I also like to say you get paid the big bucks to do this as well, they get to criticize you in your policies, your procedures, the staff, you as a body, you get to take it. That's what you get paid for. So hopefully that doesn't happen all that often, but they do have the right to do that. They also have the right to speak at regular meetings before or during a consideration of a particular agenda item. We can place reasonable time limits on public comment, and we do. Generally, it's 3 minutes. That seems to be the standard for all city boards and commissions. That minute allotment can go down given the volume of a particular group of people. Some are very controversial. If you've seen certain city council meetings where you've had 80 public speakers, if you don't put some reasonable time limits on those comments, it could be midnight before you even get to the heart of your agenda. So it's completely permissible to do that. If we allow for public comment and someone needs language translation by state law, they are entitled to twice the allotted time to provide public comment in those situations. So there are violations of the Brown Act that are enumerated in the government code. I will tell you that the most common remedy for a violation of the Brown Act has been the first one, which is invalidation of the action taken. So generally speaking, you want to do it right the first time, because if your action's invalidated, it's just a waste of your time because you're going to have to come back and do it all over again correctly. Another remedy that's available is the district attorney, who generally deals with violations of the Brown Act, or any other interested person can commence an action in court to obtain a civil injunction against future violations of the Brown Act. Also not exactly flattering to a body to have that happen, or to a particular commissioner. And one last remedy that is available is that the district attorney may file misdemeanor charges against individual members who continuously violate the Brown Act. I will tell you that I don't believe there has been one case in which the district attorney has filed a misdemeanor against anybody, because most of the time it is done unwittingly, not intent, not with any intent. Most of the time you get a letter, a slap on the wrist, and it hits the papers, but they certainly haven't gone as far as criminally charging anybody for violating it. And that's all I have. If anybody's got any questions, I would be more than happy to ask them. Let me figure out how I can stop sharing my screen. Hold on one second. I can't find the button. Uh-oh. Maybe it's here. Show the grid.
Sometimes it comes up at the top.
I know it's not coming up at all.
Hovers in and out.
So hopefully,
There we
there we
go.
go.
Do we
There
have
we
any
go.
questions from any of our commissioners or staff for that matter? Okay, hearing none. Thank you very, very much, Felicia. We appreciate that.
Anytime, if you have any further questions, you can hit up Dave, or I'm sure he will provide you with a very clear and concise answer under the law. I have no doubt. Okay,
Thank you very much. We appreciate your time tonight.
take care.
All right, next, we're going to move along to item number 7, which are public comments. Mrs. Marcelino, do we have folks waiting online to make public comments?
Yes, we do, Chair, but I will need to make my public comments announcement first.
Yes, please.
This is the time for public comments. Registration for public comments was available until the start of the meeting for those wishing to address the Traffic Commission regarding items on the agenda or on a subject within the city's jurisdiction. Speakers for specific agenda items shall be called and heard during that specific item. All remarks should be addressed to the Traffic Commission as a whole, and all documents for the Commission and the official record should be presented to the recording secretary prior to the meeting. Speakers are requested to state their name and community of residence for the record. Under state law, public comment matters may not be considered by the Traffic Commission unless listed on the agenda, but may be referred to the city engineer for administrative follow-up. One individual has requested to speak, and pursuant to Traffic Commission standards, public comment speakers are allowed 3 minutes. You will be reminded when you only have 1 minute remaining, and again when your time to speak is up.
Thank you.
We have one public comment speaker, Chair.
So may we have the first speaker, please?
Yes, she is Ms. Karen Martin. Please click unmute and state your city of residence, please.
Good evening, Karen Martin, Thousand Oaks, California. You hear me all right?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Thank you so much for listening to me tonight. I live on the corner of Lynn and Jans, and I've requested patrol and something to try to calm the intensity of the traffic that goes through here, especially coming from the college and down to 101. People just fly through this area. And I've been told because of the shrinking police force that we don't have enough police officers, even though we have these lovely pads that have been built for the officers to sit on with their motorcycle back in the late 1990s. I would like to suggest perhaps a pilot program to consider putting cameras and dosimeters here at Lynn and Jans to try to encourage people to be good. I have seen people coming back, going to Lynmere, making left turns against red. I see them doing U-turns so they can go to Medical Drive and not go through down Jans. They just do a loop and go north again when they're heading toward 101. This week, someone ran off the road on West Jans, went across traffic and hit something and then drove off. There was no sheriff's report on that. I pick up alcohol beverages on a daily basis on my walks. And I am I'm actually a doctor, and I am into prevention, and I don't want my neighbors to be hurt. I understand that it may not be what you want to do to drive sensibly. I can't say that it's just old men and young men, because young women also are flying up and down this road, and it's a matter of time. I've talked with neighbors, and neighbors say, you know, they won't call and complain because nothing will be done, and I'd like to prove them wrong. I understand finances, and I understand not having enough money. But cameras are inexpensive, and I think the money could be recouped if you chose to ticket. I think even if you just suggested to people, hey, you know what, we caught you. We're not going to do anything, but you need to slow down. We had a neighbor who ran into a tree and spent several days in the hospital, and I'm sure if someone could have prevented his accident by making him be more law-abiding, that he would have gone for it. When I was watching Tiger Woods' accident, I thought, oh my God, that looks like Lynn Road. We have the same problem. We have emergency vehicles in this area because of the pandemic. We have a lot more tradesmen. Everybody's working on their house right now. I know I had a slab leak, and the guys who came to fix it live down here. And we spoke about the traffic problems that have occurred. And there has to be a solution. I'm presenting this only because I've been shot down in every other way that I have tried to get something done. And I know Councilman McNamee or McNamee, I'm not sure how to pronounce that name. That was one of the things he ran on, was perhaps getting some cameras up to do some of this policing for us. So again, welcome to the Traffic Commission. I'm hoping the new blood that's infused here can get us going, and maybe we can have a few more meetings, more than every 5 months. Maybe we can actually have one once a month, or change that on the website, because
You have one more minute remaining, Ms. Martin.
oh, thank you so much. You know what? I think I'm done here. If y'all can do anything for us, I'd really appreciate it. If not, I'll keep thinking about it, and I'm going to keep bugging you. So please help. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Martin. I just would like to just make one follow-up comment. Yes, our meetings have been a little more sparse than they have been in the past. Part of the reason for that is the extreme hard work of staff getting a lot of things done during this time when meetings are not as often, are not necessary as often. So I want to make sure we tip our hat to staff for making certain that regardless of whether there is a meeting, the necessary work is still being done. That is our only public comment. Is that correct still, Ms. Marcelino?
That is correct, Chair.
All right. Are there any necessary responses from staff in regards to the public speakers' comments tonight?
Chair Lemo, if I
Yes,
can,
sir.
I do have at least one comment to make. This has to do with the enforcement system that Ms. Martin was suggesting maybe we use at the intersection of Jans at Lynn. Some years ago, this is probably maybe 15 years ago, the city did take a look at photo enforcement for red light runners throughout the city. We hired a vendor. They came in and studied maybe about 3 or 4 of our busiest intersections to take a look at, what our violation rates were. And they set up their own cameras, did traffic counts, and they found that for the cost to set up the system and for them to operate it, the city just does not have the number of violators that would be able to recoup the cost and have a viable program. So, and if the city were to proceed with any type of a photo enforcement system, it would definitely have to go to our city council. But that's something that we did look at in the past.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I do remember city council looking at it once in the past. All I know is when I'm breaking the law, the police always seem to be around. That's just my own public comment. All right.
Mr. Mashiko, okay, do you want to also provide a quick update about the potential additional equipment we may be installing out there on Lynn Road?
Okay, yeah. One thing I did not mention is over the last month or so, we did install some radar feedback signs along Lynn Road. Some of them are brand new and some of them are replacing the older, the older signs that were about 10 years old. They reached the end of their useful life. It's part of 12 signs that the city received. We're going to put additional signs on Westlake Boulevard as well as Keenan Road. In addition, we are trying to get more radar feedback signs throughout the city. We have applied for grants and hopefully we hear back soon, maybe in about 2 or 3 months, whether or not we were successful in getting those grants. We work with the police department on applying and identifying where our critical locations were. So we are hearing from the public as far as speed. Sergeant Patterson and I have spoken with Ms. Martin numerous times in the past. We know that it's a challenge for the city to deal with speed, because speed is an issue that affects pretty much every street in the city.
No doubt. Is it true that the shame factor alone usually slows things down when those signs go up?
Yeah, I mean, usually, we are seeing a little bit of speed reduction. We get some data back from those machines. We can look at it. It's cloud-based, the data that we retrieve. So we are seeing a slight reduction. Again, it may be temporary, but it's just another tool that we can implement in the field to get the message out to the drivers, to the speeders to slow down.
Thank you very much. With that,
I'm sorry, I have a question. Can I ask a question?
Yes, absolutely.
So the caller made a comment to shrinking number of police officers. Is that the case? Does anyone know, like, are we reducing the number of police officers that serve the city?
I would just chime in that we're running pretty far afield.
Yeah, far afield
agenda to go down that road. If that can be a yes or no, I wouldn't have any problem with Sergeant Patterson chiming in, but just be cautious of how far down this road we go.
Thank you.
My only comment would be our staff is still the same number of staff. It changes, varies throughout the year, but we are certainly not at any low point.
Thank you very much. And with that, we're going to move ahead in our agenda to item number 8, which are the summary notes. There will, of course, be no vote required on these. They are attached. And with that, under summary notes, I think it's just a matter of everyone being able to read those. Those are from previous meetings. And then we will go to item number 9, which are our engineers' reports. And our first engineer report is going to be presented by our senior engineer, Jim Mashiko, regarding the Wendy Drive crosswalk at Charlotte Street. And this will be an action item. And I'm going to turn things over to Mr. Mashiko. Now is not the time for me to announce the number of emails or anything that we received. That would be after the presentation. Is that correct? Thank you. All right, Mr. Mashiko, I'll turn things over to you.
Okay, yeah, let me just a little issue there with the screen share.
There we go.
Okay, I believe the screen is up, and thank you, Chair Lemo. This item before you is to consider the installation of a marked crosswalk and electronic pedestrian warning system for the intersection of Wendy Drive at Charlotte Street and Newbury Park. Here's a location or a vicinity map of the proposed improvement location along Wendy Drive between Borchard Road and Lynn Road. If you've driven this segment, you've noticed that it's rather curvy, has changes in road elevation, and reduces visibility at cross streets located at the inside of the curves. Here's a location map of the intersection of Wendy Drive and Charlotte. The area is primarily residential in nature. To the west of the intersection is Kimber Park and Maple Elementary School. The key area of concern at this intersection is road curvature. This first photo illustrates the impaired visibility for eastbound vehicles, pedestrians, and bicyclists when exiting Charlotte Street attempting to cross Wendy Drive. And this view is looking to the north. This second photo is the same intersection looking to the south. And here is a third view. If you're on Wendy Drive heading south, this is the view you get as you approach Charlotte Street. You also notice that the city has installed advanced warning signs of pedestrians and intersection ahead to advise motorists of the activity that may occur at Charlotte that they cannot see. In addition to the visibility concerns, the intersection is challenging for pedestrians to cross due to the speed and volume of traffic on Wendy Drive. Residents on the east side of Wendy Drive have indicated that they cross Wendy to get to Kimber Park and Maple Elementary School located on the west side. Since the nearest controlled intersection is about a quarter mile to the north at Kimber, improvements at Wendy, Charlotte are warranted to bridge the two sides together. A marked crosswalk and electronic pedestrian warning system would help facilitate crossings at the location. Staff is proposing the implementation of an enhanced crosswalk at the intersection of Wendy Charlotte with much of the same treatments as a number of the new upgraded crosswalks on Thousand Oaks Boulevard. Here's the view of an intersection on TOB at Oak Lane. The enhancements proposed for Wendy Charlotte include a marked pedestrian crosswalk at the north leg of the intersection, solar-powered rectangular rapid flashing beacons, solar-powered advanced warning flashers, pedestrian push buttons to activate the system, fluorescent yellow-green warning signs, yield signs, and yield pavement markings. And here's a close-up view of a rectangular rapid flashing beacon system which is activated by a pedestrian button. These beacons flash at a very rapid pace and are very effective in catching a driver's attention of crosswalk activity. And these devices are considered to be one of the most effective methods to get drivers to yield to pedestrians. Attachment 2 in the staff report shows a draft engineering design drawing of the intersection, identifying placement of all the amenities and elements that I just mentioned. And as part of our public outreach for tonight's meeting, we mailed out about 240 meeting notices to the residents on both sides of Wendy Drive, asking them to provide input on the staff recommendation to enhance the intersection. Over the past 2 years, we have prioritized this location and set aside funding. And we are now able to bring this item to the Traffic Commission for more, to move closer to achieving the goal of and desires of the residents for crosswalk enhancements. We have received about 6 emails from residents supporting the staff recommendation, which we mailed out or emailed out prior to the meeting. We did get another email from a resident who did not indicate their position. They seemed to just comment on the driver and pedestrian behavior at the intersection. We also received one late email, which we weren't able to provide you, from a resident who suggested making the intersection a 4-way stop controlled intersection, but would agree with the recommendation if always stop was not possible. So with that, the staff recommendation is in the staff report. The recommendation developed by the commission this evening will be forwarded to the City Council for consideration. And if approved, the goal is to have the construction work completed by early summer. So with that, I'll be glad to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mishiko. Let's first open up for questions to our commissioners.
Let me ask a question, Chair Lomo.
Sure, Commissioner Ferris.
Yeah, so First, this I find this very interesting because we actually had lived for 15 years on Peppermint Street, which is the street immediately south of this particular intersection on Wendy. So we're pretty familiar with the traffic conditions there. So the one thing I was wondering if I just want to gain the staff's comfort level with respect to, if you think that there's an additional, trying to find this in the plans, that's immediately south of their number 8, which is the advanced flashing warning beacon that's further south to give people additional warning that the flag is. Do you feel like that does provide enough warning to sufficiently warn and therefore slow the traffic that's coming north on there before they come to the crosswalk? Because that's probably experiencing most of the bend on there and being able to really give them enough warning to slow down. Do you feel that that's sufficient given the design? I just would like to hear your thoughts.
Yes, one of the things is that most of our crossings along Thousand Oaks Boulevard and the other locations where we have these enhanced crosswalks, our advanced warning signs do not have a flashing warning light that we're going to install here. In addition, the rectangular rapid flashing beacons, we're going to install them back to back on each corner. So as you're coming up, say you're traveling southbound on Wendy Drive, okay, when you look to your left side, you will see a rectangular rapid flashing beacon. So as you approach, you'll see the warning flasher, plus you'll be picking up the rectangular rapid flashing beacon that's more to your left side of your view. And then as you go through the curve, you'll pick up the rapid flashing beacon on the right hand side. So we have 3 sets of lights warning you that there's a pedestrian in the crosswalk.
Okay. Thank you. I just in knowing how that you get up the trailhead and you start heading down, and that's where they start. I know it's only 40 miles an hour on there, but they'll probably pick up some speed, and it's a pretty fast thoroughfare once you're going through there. So I just want to make sure that, for hearing from you, that you think that it'll be sufficient. Second thing is, it's just the environmental conditions in there. It gets foggy in that particular area, and the elevation, it gets a little bit more foggy than it might in some areas of the city. Do you feel sufficient that the nature and ability of the lights there, that it'll be perceived well through the fog that shows up in the mornings?
Yeah, that's a challenging question, because it depends on how fast the vehicles are traveling. Usually when there's fog, general rule and Sergeant Patterson could probably add in on this, is that you really shouldn't be driving faster than what the road conditions allow. So when it's foggier, the expectation is the driver is going to be driving slower, because their line of sight is reduced because of the fog.
Okay. Those were my main questions.
Thank you both. Commissioner Hayek, I see that your hand is raised. Hold on, you're muted, sir.
Just a process question, I guess. One is, how do we arrive at the $30,000 estimate? And then is this something that the city does in-house, or is that something that's done by outside contract?
Okay, yeah, this one we're going to do in-house. We did the Thousand Oaks Boulevard crossings in-house as well. So this number that we came up with, the cost for this, was based on those locations, and the elements that or amenities that we're going to add here are very similar to what the other locations have. So that's how we arrived at that figure.
And I can add to that, that figure primarily covers the cost of the materials, the equipment, the concrete and so forth. The staff labor is in addition to that. The total cost of each of those crosswalks is higher, higher than that.
Thank you.
All right, and Commissioner Pletcher, I see your hand up.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just had a kind of a larger process question in the staff report. First, Jim, thank you very much for the staff report and presentation. In the staff report, it mentions that the intersection doesn't meet the city's warrant standards to qualify for crosswalk markings. Maybe just as a refresher course, or what's missing from this particular crosswalk that we would look for in under normal standards to qualify for a crosswalk?
Okay, yeah, we do have a crosswalk standard to to qualify for markings, because crosswalk markings is a very popular request that we receive. But we did have to develop warrants for that, because we can't mark every intersection, and there's research to show that every intersection should not be marked. So we have warrants that we came up with based on the research, and it's based on the amount of pedestrians and automobiles. But the key, sort of the driving force or limiting factor, is the number of pedestrians that cross during the peak times. And that number is about 40 pedestrians during the peak hours. And this location doesn't seem to meet those numbers, but we felt that because of the issue with the visibility, and we know that there's a destination point on the west side of the street, the park, and then the elementary school, we know that people are crossing there. And with the issue with the visibility there, we felt that it was best to deviate from our standards and sort of beef this location up beyond what we would normally do, because we do really need to capture that driver's attention that's coming and install these lights.
One quick question. I see that Vice Chair Email's hand is up. Nader, did you need to make a comment first? Okay. Then Vice Chair Email, if you would unmute yourself, your question, please.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Chair Lemo. When I read the staff report about this particular problem, it reminded me of a stretch of Wildwood Avenue east of, or actually west of Lynn. There's a stretch of Wildwood that kind of bends down and it curves to the right as you head up toward Big Sky. And there's a crosswalk there that goes across Wildwood that is really difficult to see. You can't see it when you start coming down Wildwood from Lynn, and a lot of people cross there to get to the trail, to get over to the park at Wildwood. Much very similar to what's described here in the staff report, and certainly in the comments we've received. And in that particular crosswalk, the city installed a crosswalk sign in the median. So it's not on either side of the road, it's right in the middle of the road. And so I'm wondering whether there is any difference with that in that situation relative to the one we're looking at here, as to why you would put flashers on both sides of the road versus just one in the middle of the road.
Well, if I could just weigh in for one quick thing, because I know that area very well. There is no median, and very shortly after that bend, you come into, I think it's probably about a quarter mile, you have a left turn lane. But don't go by me, let's go by staff. So who would like to take that question? And then Nader, if you're not taking this question, your comments will be next.
I could take that question. Yeah, I know which intersection you're talking about on Wildwood. That is a three-legged intersection. So the location in the center that we placed warning signs, it would not impede a left turner because there is no left turn pocket there. But here it's a four-legged intersection. Both sides of the street, whether you're going northbound or southbound on Wendy, you're going to enter that two-way turn lane to make a left turn into either side of Charlotte. So if we really don't have the real estate there to place an island there to house warning signs or things of that nature.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Mashiko. Nader? No comment?
Nothing to add. Nope.
Okay, and I'm sorry, Vice Chair Email, did you have another question and or comment?
No, sorry, Chair. I'll lower my hand. Sorry.
No problem. All right, with that, do we have any speakers on this item?
Yes, we do. One individual has requested to speak on this item. Speakers are allowed 3 minutes. You will be reminded when you only have 1 minute remaining, and again when your time to speak is up. For the record, we have received 7 written statements with 6 supporting staff's recommendation and 1 offering comments on the behavior of drivers and pedestrians at the intersection. Our only speaker is Ms. Stephanie DeVos. Please click unmute and state your city of residence, please.
Hi,
DeVos?
yes, hi, it's Stephanie DeVos in Newbury Park. And I also have my husband David here.
Hello.
I'm so glad this is moving forward. I'm not sure what the delays were as we've been pursuing this for at least 5 years, but my husband was crossing the street going eastbound across Wendy from Charlotte, and that blind curve, there was a car coming down the hill heading northbound, and we just had to sprint across the intersection, and the guy had to slam on his brakes and tires squealed, and it was really a scary situation. So there's speed involved as well as this at this intersection. So I do appreciate that you've put in that center 2-way turn lane throughout the whole Wendy Drive between Lynn and Borchard to slow traffic down. That did not go unnoticed, and we're just really looking forward to the crosswalk. I'm in full support of it.
Thank you very much, Ms. DeVos.
Thank you.
Do we have any questions for the speaker from our commissioners? Hearing none, thank you again. And that is our only speaker, Mrs. Marcelino?
Yes, Chair.
Thank you very much. Then what we will do is now open it up to see if there are any further questions of staff. And I like to try and follow Robert's Rules of Order. So before we have commission discussion, if there are no further questions of staff, I'll entertain a motion on one or more of the recommendations in our staff report. May I suggest then that we would have a motion, and maybe staff can clarify. I was thinking that motions 2 or recommendations 2 and 3 could go together so that the engineer would be free to have input as necessary along the way. Am I overthinking that, or is that a proper motion?
I think that would be a proper motion.
All right, so I'd like to, if someone would like to make a motion, if not, I'll make the motion, because I guess we do have some new commissioners. Let's do
I'm happy
that.
to make the motion if you want.
Yes, sir. Commissioner Ferris. Yes, sir.
I will move to recommend, per staff's recommendation, recommend the city council approve the project design plans for Wendy Drive pedestrian crossing at Charlotte Street, and recommend the city council delegate authority to the city engineer to approve changes to the design plan specifications and working details of the project as required during construction.
Thank you, Commissioner Ferris. Do we have a second? Do we need a second? We do not need a second, and therefore now I'll open up the motion that's on the floor for any further discussion by our commissioners.
Mr. Chair, I'm happy and will be supporting the motion. I think we heard very clearly tonight that this is not only a special case, but also this is a major safety issue. Our public speaker brought that up, I think, very clearly in a very scary moment for her. So I'm happy to support the recommended motion.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Plesher. Any other comments or questions? Hearing none, Ms. Marcelino, will you please call the vote and of course make the announcement?
Commissioner Ferris,
Yes.
Commissioner Hayek,
Yes.
Commissioner Fletcher,
Yes.
Vice Chair Emo,
Yes.
Chair Lemo.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0. The Traffic Commission makes recommendations to the City Council, and interested parties may attend the City Council meeting and speak either for or against the recommendation of the Traffic Commission. Any person wishing to appeal a decision of the Traffic Commission shall file a written appeal and pay an appeal fee with the City Clerk Department within 14 calendar days of this decision. The matter will be referred to the City Council at the earliest reasonable and available date. The appeal fee will be refunded only if the City Council overturns the Traffic Commission's decision. An appeal form is available from the recording secretary. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Marzolino. Next, we have the second engineer's report to be presented by our associate engineer, Robert Sweeting. And Engineer Sweeting, we're going to turn the floor over to you in regards to item 9B.
All right, thank you very much. Let me pull up my screen. There we go. All right. Good evening, Chair Limo and Commissioners. I'm here to recommend tonight the installation of 7 additional flashing yellow arrows throughout the city.
Robert, just this is not if you can thing on the top, it says display settings. It might allow you to make it larger, or you can slide the bar between the 2 windows there a little bit to the right to minimize. Yeah, there you go. At least to have a little bit bigger.
Okay.
There you go.
All right. So a flashing yellow arrow, what is a flashing yellow arrow? It is a hybrid of a protected yellow left turn for red, yellow, green arrows and or a red, yellow, green ball. So it's kind of a hybrid, and the green ball would be symbolic to the flashing yellow. So it is kind of a combination of a permissive signal and a protected signal all in one. In 2016, we started installing 14 flashing yellow arrows throughout the city of Thousand Oaks. Also in 2016, we adopted city standards for the installation of the flashing yellows. It cannot be over 45 miles per hour. The sight distance needs to be good. It cannot be more than 3 lanes. The position of the signal head shall be in the center of the left turn pocket. The collision history needs to be appropriate, and there cannot be any dual lefts or triple lefts. We also use the standards from the Manual Uniform Traffic Control Devices, which is a standard in state guidelines. After we installed our initial 5, we found the findings were basically that we did increase some volume. The delays were reduced, as well as the queues, and the queues are the stacking, how many cars were waiting to make that left. We got more requests for flashing yellows. In fact, I just had one on Monday for another location. We've had very few negative comments, and we've had a few collisions over the past 6 years. Some of the features that we can do with flashing yellows is what's called time of day, meaning that at certain times of the day that we can turn it off. We can, so for instance, on Moore Park Road at Thousand Oaks High School, in the morning peak, we actually have it turned off because the left turn volume is so high that it does not make sense to have a flashing yellow on. Then we can turn it off after school has started. And so we can do that at other locations as well. For PM, noon, whatever we need to, we can make a time of day schedule. Also, we have a 5-second startup delay, which case the opposing through gets to start 5 seconds before the flashing yellow begins. We also have another safety feature in there, which is you need to be present for at least 10 seconds in the left turn pocket. If you haven't been there for 10 seconds, you probably haven't been there long enough for a protected green arrow. Therefore, the through lane will begin, and then you will get your flashing yellow as the startup delay. And then lastly, typically all signals have a 1 second all red. In this case, we actually add a little more time so people have a chance to notice that it goes from flashing to a solid yellow arrow. So we've added all those additional features into the flashing yellow arrow. So currently we're looking at these 7 locations, 4 over in the Newbury Park area and 3 in the central portion of Thousand Oaks. And there are those locations, and it is projected that the cost of each location would be less than about $6,000. And that's basically a couple of pieces of product that have to go into the cabinet to make this occur. And then the signal heads themselves get switched out. And then the next steps, if you do approve it, is that it will go to City Council for approval in the spring. Then we'll order material in the summer and then get them installed sometime in the fall. And then again, based on people's requests, we do have about 20 other locations that could meet potential future flashing yellow arrow locations. And then to finalize, it would be up to staff to decide on the input from the public and the staff report, and then recommend the additional 7 flashing yellow arrows throughout the city of Thousand Oaks. And with that, I will take any questions you may have.
Okay, first, do we have any questions of staff by our commissioners? Well, wait a minute, I'm sorry. Sorry about that, folks. Do we have any public speakers on this item, Ms. Marcelino? Whoop, you're muted.
We did not receive requests to speak nor written statements for this item.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. With that, now we'll see if there are any questions from our commissioners or staff. All right. Well, I have only one comment. In almost all the years I've been on the commission, I don't think I've ever heard more positive comments about any one thing that's ever been done at the city than those flashing yellow signals. And they certainly help people who are still commuting in the area to school and what have you, even during the low traffic COVID times. So with that, we will look for a motion. We have 2 recommendations from staff. And I would like to see if we can entertain a motion.
Sure.
Vice Chair Email.
Yeah, so I'd like to make a motion for the staff recommendation regarding the flashing yellow arrow operation for the 7 recommended installations. Recommendation that this staff report be considered, public input be received and decided on an improvement program as appropriate. And that the staff recommendation be recommended to the City Council to approve the retrofit of protected left turn traffic indications to flashing yellow arrow operation at up to 7 existing intersections in the city of Thousand Oaks during this calendar year.
Excellent. Thank you very much. And with that, do we have, we can now open it up for discussion. Are there any discussion from commissioners in regards to this item?
Mr. Chair, I just had a quick comment.
Yes, sir, Commissioner Pletcher.
I like you, I actually had the opportunity, I was on the traffic commission when the first flashing yellow lights were on the agenda. So I'm very happy, like you, happy to see them be so well received, and happy to see that the safety numbers that I remember hearing about 6 years ago or so still hold true. This really is a fantastic idea that our former commissioner brought to the staff. And so I'm generally going to obviously support it, but I wanted to make that quick comment kind of to piggyback off of what you said. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Other commissioner comments? Hearing none, Ms. Marcelino, will you call the vote, please?
Commissioner Ferris,
Yes.
Commissioner Hayek,
Yes.
Commissioner Fletcher,
Yes.
Vice Chair Emo,
Yes.
Chair Lemmel.
Yes,
Motion carries 5-0. Thank you.
thank you very much. And now looking at, we'll get back to our agenda here. Takes me a while to, I'm keeping our agenda here on my iPad because I have a few papers going around. Here we are. Okay, next we have item 9C, which is an information item. And it's a report on our bicycle advisory team. Is that just receiving what's in our packet, or do we have someone who's actually going to make a presentation on that?
No, there's no presentation, just strictly notes from the meeting if anyone's interested in hearing what the bicycle advisory team was discussing.
I will tell you that I did attend the meeting, and those meetings are very well attended by the members of the bicycle advisory team. Thank you very much. Now we'll go to item 10, our status report of prior traffic recommendations. And what we, let's see here. On October, well, everyone has their agenda handy. You can see that on October 21st, our commission voted 5-0 to recommend City Council approve Phase 2 roadway enhancements on West Potrero at Briar Avenue. City Council did approve the measures and field implementation is complete. Is there any staff report on that, or just the information we have there is sufficient?
Yes, just both items are just there for your information, summarizing what happened to the items you heard last October.
Right, and so you can see there that we did vote 5-0 to recommend City Council approve the proposed ordinance amendment regarding oversized vehicle parking, and City Council did approve that in January of this year. Next, we have item 11, commission referrals from October 21st, and it was police enforcement of failing to yield to pedestrians by motorists at the crosswalk at Borchard and San Antonio. That was an item that I did request. Shockingly, I saw it happen again one night. I would love to hear more about the police enforcement, though I will tell you that at night, police enforcement, I don't think would do much good there because it's an errant driver that does stuff like that. But is there any comments from the police on that, or did you want to let us know about the increased enforcement?
Sure, I'll comment on it. We've done several restraint operations in that intersection specifically. I've met with the residents on the corners there, spoken to them, as well as adding it into our routine area that we patrol and try to catch people not yielding. As is typical, it's pedestrian dependent unless we do our operations. So it is very difficult for timing wise, but it has been brought to our attention and we are doing the best we can with what we have to do that outside of what we can control.
Perfect. Thank you very much. You're right. It is. It's one thing to be there, but if a pedestrian's not using it, it makes it a little tough if there's no pedestrian at that point in time. Thank you very much. You will all see, commissioners, that in item 12, our program and commission schedule is in fact attached. And so we will now move to item 13, which is traffic commission comments. And we'll see if, and we don't need to use the button. You can just raise your hand. Do any commissioners have any comments or discussion they'd like to have, keeping in mind we really can't discuss anything that didn't appear on today's agenda. I believe the most we could do is suggest to staff if there's something you'd like to see on a future agenda, but that's as far as we should go. Thank you, Mr. Womack. So any comments? All right, hearing none, I will only make two comments. One is to welcome our existing commissioners and thank staff for all of their work. And one little tiny bit of advice that sometimes takes a couple of years on the commission to understand and realize. We have, and I'm a 33-year resident, so I'm allowed to be a little biased. We have by far one of the best public works and city staff of any city, and I work in a variety of a half dozen or so cities. Ours is the best. And so if you have any questions you feel might border on criticism, you can always deal with our staff privately, but not in our meetings. And whatever information you need, it's really very, very helpful as a commissioner, especially when I was a new commissioner, to know that I could go to staff and get an answer that I could live with and trust. And so that would be the only advice I would give to our new commissioners, but welcome. And with that, we are adjourned until April 21st. We'll be well into spring by then. And we'll also be finishing our meetings in the light by then. But we are adjourned until April 21st. And it says right now in the boardroom of the Civic Arts Plaza, we will not know that until much closer to the meeting, but it's highly likely that we will be on Zoom. Is that a safe assumption, staff?
Yeah, that is correct. And the agenda, I believe, says or virtual meeting via Zoom. So there's.
All righty. And thank you all for getting on board with the Zoom. I think it went very, very well. The training from staff, all of staff is good, but the one who has to put up with most of the goofy questions usually coming from me is Julie. And I always have this unique talent of 60 seconds before the meeting telling her that I lost the link and she has to hook me up, but she always does. So thank you very much, everybody. We're going to adjourn and we'll see you next month. And we're out. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.